爭咗我而家行緊入嚟。多謝多謝多謝。各位，我哋
Members, may I call to order the meeting of the security panel since we formed a quorum and is also the appointed time. The first thing on the agenda is to confirm the minutes of our previous meeting. The minutes were issued on the 7th of July, and that's the minutes for the meeting date the 13th of May, and we have no received proposal for amendments so far. So can we confirm the minutes, please? Thank you. Information paper issued since the last meeting. We've got CB 21637/1314/01. Administration's information paper on its proposals to revise a number of fees and charges for the services provided by the Immigration Department. And in the afternoon of the 4th of July, I received a letter jointly sent by 9 members requesting to discuss to convene a special meeting to discuss the police handling of public meeting and public possessions on the 1st of July. I decided to include this item as the last one on our agenda rather than convening a special meeting. So the meeting will be extended by 1 hour so that we can have ample time to discuss this issue. So there's information papers issued since the last meeting. We will now move on to the third item, public consultation on rescue drug testing scheme updates. Please invite the administration to and the relevant representatives to join us at the meeting. Present for this meeting, we have Chairman of Action Committee Against Narcotics, Professor Daniel Sheck, and also Commissioner for Narcotics, Mrs. Erica Hui, PAS for Security, Ms. Mandy Wong. Also from ACAN, Mr. Ben Zhang, Chairman of the Subcommittee on Treatment and Rehabilitation, Dr. Dick Chi Yun, Chairman of the Subcommittee on Preventive Education and Publicity. Welcome. I understand that Professor Sheck may give us a briefing on the paper. So, Professor Sheck, over to you first. Thank you, Chairman and members of the panel. The purpose of RDT, or Rescue Drug Testing Scheme, is to intervene at a very early stage before the drug addicts have suffered permanent physical damage. ACAN understands that this is a rather complicated and controversial issue, and therefore the administration has responsibility to collect the views of different sectors of the community so as to understand in depth their views on this subject. So we have used public consultation to invite views, and we've also organized public forums and attended close to 100 seminars organized by different sectors to listen to public opinions. Last December, the Security Bureau commissioned the University of Hong Kong Public Opinion Program in between to survey the community in between February and March this year. We have considered the findings and conclusions of the poll, and please refer to para 5 to 12 of the paper for findings of the opinion poll and the written submissions. We've also received about 2,800 written submissions. Quite a number of them are against the proposal. However, we should not decide whether the program is supportable on the basis of the number of objections. We invite views to not to decide whether we should go ahead with the RDT or not. I think in general, members of the public are supportive of the idea of early intervention for parents and service providers to drug addicts and ex-drug addicts. They tend to support the scheme. But for professionals and human rights concern groups, they are opposed to the scheme. However, they do agree that human rights can be subject to some restrictions under exceptional circumstances. And some of them worry about the effectiveness of the scheme because we do not have details in the document. And therefore, we believe that the administration should provide more specific implementation details through a second stage public engagement exercise so that the public can continue this debate on whether RDT should be supported or not. In Hong Kong Youth Opinion Poll Program, over 91% of the respondents supported the RDT. 61% believe that it could be effective in achieving its objective of identifying the drug addicts earlier to refer them to treatment. Close to half of them have heard of the scheme before the poll, and they have not supported the scheme blindly. About 36% of the respondents had concerns over law enforcement officers having excessive powers, but 47% did not consider that the RDT would infringe on human rights and civil liberties. In between March and April, we visited Stockholm in Sweden to learn from the scheme. Please refer to para 13 to 17. Now, the Swedish experience is that police can help to identify drug abusers early for early intervention, and there's also very close cooperation with the social welfare sector to provide counseling and support to drug abusers. In the light of support in the public and the successful experience in Sweden, we believe that it is now time to conduct a second round of public consultation on details of the RDT. We propose that the government should continue to exchange views with stakeholders and professional bodies before the second stage public consultation to dispel worries and misunderstandings. We have made 4 specific recommendations to the government. For details, please refer to para 21, and we urge the administration to start the second round public consultation as early as possible. I think we should know that psychotropic drugs abuse can damage a person's health and damage to organs and drug-related mental problems that can also lead to more incidents of violence and suicides. According to latest studies, ketamine abuse can lead to renal failure and also kidney problems, liver problems. Medical health personnel who are very experienced in this field know that abusers are very unmotivated when it comes to seeking assistance. So the earlier they can receive treatment, the better, or the more effective the treatment can be. Unfortunately, many patients have already missed the golden opportunity for full recovery, and their their brain or their bladder, urinary bladder, have been damaged to the stage of beyond recovery before they've come to seek assistance. And some doctors said that when life is at risk, perhaps we should look at human rights at another perspective. I think there should be room for the community to discuss the details of the scheme and to consider whether it can be used as an additional option for early identification of drug abusers so that they can receive treatment and rehabilitation. Thank you. Mrs. Soy, do you have anything to say? Yes, Chairman. I'd like to take this opportunity, to say a few words. Professor Sheck has just shared with the panel their recommendations, and I would like to set out the administration's response for members' consideration.
Now, we have considered ACAN's analysis and recommendations, and we have taken reference from the firm support in the POP survey, and we think that we need to continue to investigate the issue so that we can provide another tool so that we can identify the abusers early and provide assistance early. Now, the LDT is to help the hidden incidents of drug abuse, to identify the abusers earlier, to provide assistance to them before irrevocable damage to their bodies. Now, although the reported cases of drug abuse seem to be declining, yet we see a phenomenon that is the hidden cases of drug abuse are becoming more serious. Now, the median number has risen to 4.6 years. So in 6 years, the number has doubled, and we see this number continuing to increase. Now, the next stage of our work is to come up with specific proposals. We will refer to the views collected from the POP survey and to address people's concerns. We will promote tools to offer rapid tests using oral fluids, and we will also refer to foreign experience so as to alleviate people's concerns. This will provide scope for us to enhance discussion and enhance cooperation, and for us to provide further recommendations for Stage 2 public engagement. So, are there members who wish to discuss the issue? Fernando Cheung, Chen Ka-lok, Kwok Wai-keung, Chen Chi-chun. Anyone else? Elizabeth Quack, Sid Ho, Kenneth Leung. We have a number of items of agenda, so we must allow no more than 4 minutes each. If you wish a more exhaustive answer, please shorten your questions. Dr. Cheung? Now, the LDT is controversial. I remember we held public hearings before. The views are diverse. Many social workers are against it, but some support it. The medical workers, as Professor Sheck said, are mainly in support, but the professional body is against it. And now Professor Sheck said that we need to engage the public in a second round. Now, the written submissions from the first round are 54% against, and the rest are in support. So then there is a public opinion survey, and then 90% are shown to be in support. So this is a strange approach. in the past, there are few cases where you conduct a public opinion survey. So it seems that you don't stop until you get the answer you want. Now, the submissions received are mostly in objection, but then you go ahead with a public opinion survey, which shows 90% support. Now, if you ask people's views in public opinion surveys, yet the people may not be familiar with the issue, so their answers may be suspect. For instance, when you ask whether the police should be allowed to intervene early, of course, more people would say yes. The issue is whether you try to strike a blow against them or you try to be their companion. Now, this is a controversial issue. Now, so your views seem to be that one should strike a blow rather than be their companion. So are you going to go ahead with RTT, whatever people think? And you say that people have some misunderstanding about the specific arrangements. Are you going to still meet with these groups? Because Shu Ka-chun and the others said that they want to meet with they want to meet with the commissioner, but they couldn't make the appointments. So before going ahead with second round of public consultation, will you meet with these people and listen to them? Professor, we are not just trying to get the answer we want. As I said earlier, even before we started the consultation, I already told the government that we need to look at the matter from multi-perspectives because the issue is complex. So this is a world trend when people conduct studies. Now, we are very willing to engage in dialogue, and we recommend that there should be a second round of consultation, but before that, we need to communicate more with stakeholders. Now, it's been said that they couldn't meet with me in a forum, but it's true that I was preoccupied on that date, otherwise occupied. Mr. Chen Ka-lok. Thank you, Chairman. We thank Professor Sheck and his colleagues for coming to explain to us the preliminary findings from the first round of consultation. Now, of course, I have questions about the public opinion survey. Now, a cursory glance seems to show a high rate of support, 80%, and then with further questions, it becomes 90%. So it seems to indicate a high degree of support. I believe Professor Sheck knows that such surveys of social desirability, when you ask whether it's good to do certain things like universal retirement protection, of course, most people would say yes. Now, the POP was done by Hong Kong U. They asked in the first question whether people have heard about it. 48% said they heard about it. 52% said they haven't. So that's the first problem. And then the interviewer gives an introduction, and then it seems that of the 1,000 respondents, then more people are shown to be in support. So people in the field know that there's a question of interpretation. The media get the impression that the submissions are more concrete in their objections, so you conduct a public opinion survey to strike a balance. Now, I'd like to ask Professor Sheck and other members of his team, you are going to do a second round of consultation. Now, people say there's no need for consultation, you can engage in discussion. Now, I think, how do you intend to operate the second round? In the first round, you said we already plan to do a public opinion survey well in advance. Now, how are you going to narrow the differences in the second round? The differences are large, if you ask me. Now, there seems to be a consensus when you ask the public, but if you ask the operators, the social workers, the teachers, well, you say we need to do a second round of consultation. Well, then people may express the same views. So are you going to do a second round of a public opinion survey and you again get 90% support and you go ahead with the scheme? Is that what you do? Can you tell me about the details? Now, the public opinion survey is basically done by the University of Hong Kong, and we provided them with a framework. They designed the questions. We told them what information we like to get. Now, as for the second round of consultation, as I said clearly, now, before deciding what to specifically to undertake, we need to have a plan. We need to work on that. Some people say they don't know whether to support it or not because they don't know the details. So we need to tell them our plan. And we also want to communicate further with the stakeholders. So you don't have a timetable now? No specifics, no timetable now. When we reported this matter last week, we told the public that before coming up with a timetable, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We thank Ms. Hui and Professor Sheck for reporting to us about the rescue drug testing scheme consultation conclusions. Now, some have asked, so why is it that the public opinion survey is done by HKU? The professor said that it's done early. Now, the survey does show what the general public thinks. Now, very often some people express their dissatisfaction, especially people like certain members. But the public look at it from another perspective, that is whether we need to do more work on drug abuse. Now, most people do feel that we need to resolve or to alleviate the problem of drug abuse. So this is a new attempt. This new attempt needs to get the support of the public and of members. If we don't go ahead with new approaches and then we merely adopt the old approach, and the problems are still there and we seem to be at a bottleneck. So we need new measures to make a breakthrough. So regarding RDT, we support the new attempts. Now, of course, of the 8 major questions in the questionnaire, they cover a wide scope. The stakeholders express their concerns. Now, if you compare the two, I think the HKU POP is more detailed because it asks all the questions. And as I understand it, the stakeholders merely respond to one of the 8 questions in the consultation document, and they object on that basis. So I think the POP survey is broader in scope and more effective. So among the stakeholders, including the education sector, the parents, doctors, past addicts, and social workers, and the results show that most stakeholders are supportive of the scheme, except for the social welfare sector, who has worries. Now, Mr. Xu and other social workers have talked to us, and they are mainly concerned about post-test service and how to protect the rights of the persons concerned. Now, these worries need to be dispelled in the second round of consultation, or at least reduced. Now, if these concerns are to completely disappear, now that's not possible before actual implementation. Once it's implemented, and we see where improvements can be made. I hope the administration and ACAN can take a more detailed approach in the second round to alleviate people's concerns. 15 seconds left. I agree and I support these comments. Please try to leave answers time for the responses by the administration. Chen Chi-chun. Now, if you ask anyone whether there should be more work done to prevent drug abuse, I think you get 100% support. But RTT is very controversial. The stage 1 consultation is actually tries to manufacture its own support and get the results it wants. So it uses the POP to achieve a 91% support rate. Now, would it surprise you, Dr. Sheck, that you see this 91% support? Now, members have pointed out that the survey questionnaire is really not objective, and you can see that the 54% of the submissions are against it. Actually, the balance is pretty even. Now, Professor Sheck, that there may be people submitting multi-submissions, and there may be templates in the answers. Now, actually, this is true on both sides. Now, you try to attribute a greater weight to the 91% support in the POP.
Professor Sheck, let me repeat that I have no intention to devalue these submissions. But having said such remarks, well, I was asked how I interpreted the statistics, and that was my interpretation back then. Well, now you can refer to reports how Professor Daniel Sheck devalued the written submissions. Now you are a scholar. Why didn't you improve the system of public of inviting submissions? Why have you wasted public money? Why have you gone for that approach? Well, we have just followed the usual approach adopted by the government. From a researcher's point of view, any sort of study will have its limitations, and that's why even before we started, I advised the government to conduct an opinion poll. In that way, next time, there is no need to invite written submissions. People can give you views by standardized templates, and and they can remain anonymous. I think you have already done. It's been reported that the government has found contractors to provide a rapid oral liquid testing kit. No. In fact, the test kit for rapid oral fluid test is still being developed. Mrs. Hui, Mr. Ray Chen referred to the test kit for rapid oral fluid test. Allow me to supplement or clarify. We have legislation on drink driving and drug driving that has been in operation for a while. And among the provisions, one of the measures that can be done for screening is rapid oral fluid test. So we have always been doing that simultaneously. With that being the case, there is no need to conduct a second round of public consultation. They can just come to us direct. Please wait for me to ask you to speak. Otherwise, we cannot go on. Dr. Tick. Now, I'm also involved in the project. We have not devalued any category of views. So we've been very transparent. I'm afraid his time is up. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. ACAN has taken the initiative to consult the public and to carry out such a study to help young abusers to get rid of the habit. I welcome that. I think views of drug abusers and also our parents or family members would like to have an additional avenue for them to find out whether they have hidden drug abusers at home to help them. I can appreciate the difficulty, the worries felt by frontline social workers. I appreciate their work. They have used their ways and means to help many drug abusers, but I've also discussed with parents and ex-drug abusers. They say that social workers cannot reach out to each and every young drug abusers. I know frontline social workers are worried that this program may affect the mutual trust between social workers and service recipients. And they are afraid that this won't be able to help to increase their motivation to receive rehabilitation. So I hope that in the next round of public consultation, we can be informed of the supporting facilities and measures and details. I think it would be good if we can be told of some of the supporting measures. Professor Sheck, thank you. That's exactly why we have asked the administration to think about launching a second round of public consultation. Because in the first round, we were rather general and no details were provided. Thank you. Dr. Zheng. Thank you, Chairman. We will analyze the views expressed in written submissions will take into account their grounds of objection. Well, we attach equal significance to findings of the opinion poll and the written submissions. Even though we're going to start another round of public consultation, that doesn't mean that we're going to impose the scheme. Parents are in a very difficult situation. If a long-term drug abuser has no motivation to receive treatment, then their urinary bladders and brain might be affected. Some ex-drug abusers after rehabilitation are grateful that they were caught in the past. Well, by definition, drug addicts don't have the discipline or self-control. So we hope that there can be a mechanism to provide an extra entry point of intervention before it is too late. So in the next public consultation, we would like to come up with a proposal that can help this group of people without creating excessive nuisance to the community. Dr. Tick, in Stockholm, there we visited a juvenile Protection Unit. In 2013, it handled 1,251 cases, and 78% were tested positive. And among this 78%, 60% of the positive cases were previously unknown to the police. So it was found to be an effective way to find out unknown cases, previously unknown cases. Ms. Ho, beating drugs and helping young people to stay drug-free. Of course, we all support this, but people have different ideas as to how to do it. Social workers will help young people to build up their values, self-image, and they believe it is more effective than for the police to arrest them and send them to rehabilitation center. Because if they are arrested and then set free afterwards, if they have not built up positive values of life, they may repeat the habit. Resources to social welfare organizations and workers is hardly sufficient. One social worker has to handle 70-80 cases per month. So how can they cope? Now, even if you follow the suggestion in para 16, the Swedish police there directly refer cases to the police, but you have to ensure that the workload of social workers is reasonable before they can really help young people after they have received referrals. The whole mechanism will increase powers of the police without giving additional support to social workers. This we object, because the additional powers to the police will infringe upon human rights, and it will open the floodgates for police to abuse their powers. Now, the purpose of an overseas visit is not to learn from the experience and come back to promote their way, or you should go to places with different policies. Because if you go to Sweden, you ask their police force, of course they would tell you it's good, because after all they have that policy. They won't tell you the downside of the program. They only tell you what more powers they need. I'd like to know whether you have talked to social worker organizations or parents or student groups in Sweden. Were there different views expressed? If yes, why weren't they included in the report? Why are you just selling your position to us? This gives us the idea that you have preconceived ideas. You're only going there to find information to support your approach, and that's why people say that you're fabricating public opinion. And so can you tell us whether dissenting views were collected in the Sweden? And second, what about the second round of public consultation? Professor Sheck, I also do research myself. I have no preconceived idea. We won't go out to find information to support our predetermined position. In Sweden, in addition to the police, have met social workers, medical health care personnel, and also people, policymakers who were experienced in making policies to help drug addicts. And as I said, there should be groundwork to be done before the public consultation starts again. We do not have any predetermined position. There must be consensus in society before we would suggest the government to take the third step. Well, you can have very beautiful talk, but I think action speaks louder. Please include in writing the dissenting views or views expressed by other parties in Sweden. Mr. Kenneth Leung, of course, we would support enhanced enforcement when it comes to the fight against drugs. But if you look at the poll views or the studies, the views are diverse. Now, for RDT, you chose Sweden as a case study. You call that a successful case, but the following information is missing from Sweden. First, do they have a similar body such as the IPCC there? If yes, what checks and balances are there to monitor the operation of the police and the powers of the police? Second, can you conduct a comparative study to look at the legislation for human rights protection in Sweden, and how is it different from what we have in Hong Kong? You cannot just carry out a case study and say that they have that in Sweden, and next time you choose Norway and tell us that something has been done there without considering the overall culture, social environment, and legal framework there. You cannot just import that system from Sweden simply because it is successful there. Why not? Why don't you plant the political system of Sweden in Hong Kong, Mr. Shek? Well, we are not saying that we are going to transplant the system in Sweden to Hong Kong. We just say that it is worthy for our consideration, and we would like to invite somebody from Sweden to come to Hong Kong, and Mr. Leung is welcome to join some of our seminars.
Dr. Dick, now our plan is this. They are experienced, and they have the experience. In the 60s, they adopted an open policy. The doctors can prescribe psychotropic drugs or offer these drugs, and there was a rife black market, so there was a serious drug abuse problem. And then they turned the other way. And you can see that they were effective in controlling the drug abuse problem. So we want to learn from them. That's our motive. We asked the social workers and medical staff, and they provided us with a lot of information about operations. And we, in the first round of consultation, now people ask some questions. We asked whether the police employed many police officers, or whether many people died from suicides. Now, they gave us the answers. They provided the information. They are a democratic society. They told us there is no issue of human rights abuse, and I think you can look into the background. Now, Dr. Dick said that that Sweden is a democratic society, and Hong Kong is not. That's why I'm concerned. Now, is there a statutory body monitoring the enforcement of human rights there? I hope they can provide us with the information. Do you have the information? Yes, we do. We can provide that. Yip Kim Meng, Paragraph 6 of the document mentioned that among the written submissions, there were more of people who opposed. Now, this is quite natural. Now, when there are objections, they tend to submit more written submissions. Now, so I support the HKU POP. Now this is a controversial issue, and it has been a long-standing issue. When are you going to conduct the second round of consultation? And also, you studied the issue in Sweden, and you learned that the Swedish police has a lot of power to identify the abusers, but of course they have their own background in terms of culture and history, and etc. Now, so what else can you learn from them? Now, at the public hearing, we heard many different views. I get the feeling that the frontline social workers support the scheme, but the senior staff have had reservations. Now, I've been in contact with frontline workers in schools, etc., and basically they want early adoption of the scheme. I don't know why you are still waiting. Professor Sheck? Now, we don't have a specific timetable. We hope the administration can do two things first. Firstly, there must be a specific plan. And secondly, we need to consult more and talk to the stakeholders. Now, what can we learn from Sweden? Now, actually, we see that in Sweden, the doctors are supportive and there's good cooperation with the police. So that addresses the worries in Hong Kong. And all those who are familiar with the plight of the drug abusers, these are the people who feel that we need to go ahead earlier. Of course, we need to consult, we need to legislate, we cannot overly expedite. That's why we have to overcome these difficulties. We know that many people will oppose this in the second round of consultation. We do not have consensus yet. We hope that by more discussion, then people may be more supportive. That's what we are trying to achieve. Dr. Dick, now on what we can learn from Sweden. Now, now in Sweden they help people kick their drug habit by a lenient way. They offer two choices. You can get medical help, or you can just do it your way, but if you are caught in the future, you will be penalized. Now, and the medical staff offer a treatment approach. Now, there's good cooperation between social workers and the police. In Sweden, they have similar problems as Hong Kong. The social workers attach importance to confidentiality and so on. But they try to reach agreement on points in which they can cooperate. Emily Lau and then UC Wing. Professor Sheck said that he wants to overcome difficulties. That's a spirit worth praising. Now, you've heard the members say many things. Now, I think these difficulties are hard for you to overcome. We, of course, understand your efforts, but I don't understand why we reached the situation today. You do it on two fronts. So the public inevitably question your handling. Now, you get one set of results, you are not entirely happy with them, so you take the second approach. So it goes on and on. I think this is not quite sound. Approaches like this now make people feel dissatisfied. Now you have to be fair in your approach in finding the correct answers. Now, if there is a lot of conflicting opinion, then you want to try to resolve the differences and not go ahead in your scheme. Now, what do you think, Professor Sheck? I need to clarify further. We are not discarding the results because we are dissatisfied with them and then go ahead with the POP survey. Now, secondly, if we conduct a survey, we don't know ahead whether the results will be favorable. Now, on resolving conflicts, I urge the administration to continue to talk to stakeholders and people of different views. I am not banking on the 90% support as the basis for going ahead. I'm saying that we should discuss further on the appropriate next step. Now, if in the end people are still of different views, maybe it's difficult to go ahead. Dr. Cheung? Well, whether it's 90% or 46% support, now we will still continue to try to have more discussion. Now, if the second round of consultation comes up with again equally divided views, we will not go ahead. Now, given the current approach of treatment and recovery, now the median figure is still rising. It's 5 years, 10 years. It's a severe burden now, some to society. Now some are on CSSA. They keep taking up more resources at the emergency wards. So some people question whether we want the police to arrest all of them and convict them. Now, actually, we are not going to prosecute them. We want them to be treated early. It's not that we don't want them to take action, but we should try to get agreement early. U.C. Wing? In Para 6 is very clear. Now, the 71% opposition, mostly that's in letters based on templates, so it's not that reliable. Now, of course, if one views that it's not a reliable set of results, then it's quite normal to do a second round of consultation or do a second round of, or to do a set of surveys. Now, now in 2013, they had in Sweden they had 1,200 odd cases, and 70% showed tested positive. So, and also they have cooperation with the social workers. So I support early going ahead of the second round of consultation. We can adopt approaches that have proved successful in Sweden. Now, the government should give us more information. Now you should provide us with written information before going ahead with the second round of consultation on how you intend to go ahead. To avoid this will avoid more argument. As I said, we will try to proceed as quickly as possible. On the study or consultation, we do not have specific plans yet. Now, several members have asked for more discussion. This is exactly what we want to pursue before the second round of consultation. Now, the first round of consultation is a consultation about principles. Now we hope to have broader discussion to come up with a widely supported plan, and then we'll go ahead with the second round of consultation. When you before you administer a questionnaire, can you provide the questions to the panel? We will consider that. In that case, you will not need to worry about blaming by members. Now, I am certainly supportive that we need to act. That's the wishes of the parents. Now, you should give us a plan. We ourselves come from diverse backgrounds. Yes, we will proceed as quickly as possible, but the scheme involves complex legal issues, and so it takes time, but we will try to expedite. James Toh, and then Ellen Liao. We hear members speaking in support. They say that with the scheme, the young people will be assisted. Without the scheme, they won't, or no progress would be made. So, of course, more assistance is better than less. Now, actually, the frontline social workers, why are they against the scheme? They think that the scheme has the objective of compelling people to undergo a test, and you hope that they would then undergo treatment. The social workers they think that with the new scheme, the frontline staff will face even greater difficulty in identifying the drug abusers in order to counsel them. Now, human rights are another issue. The social workers have considered that with the scheme, because it's mandatory, so people are labeled abusers, and you then counsel them. But at the same time, the social workers will find it more difficult to do their job. They try to identify the abusers day and night. So they worry that with the scheme, they won't be able to identify the abusers to help them.
You talked about the opinion poll. Of course, we don't assume that respondents were not aware of this phenomenon, but can ACAN or the administration conduct some deliberative things like deliberative poll? For instance, a few persons can come together and debate for a few hours, and then at random you can have an audience of 200 or 500, and then ask them to vote afterwards. Now, I won't oppose to another round of public consultation, but I just find the current treatment rather strange. Now, unless ACAN members are saying that RDT can help more drug abusers than those who are lost. Now, you can tell us everything, and so we can make a considered judgment. We're not being emotional. I don't believe you want the powers to harm anybody. I'm just worried that with additional powers, there will be fewer drug abusers who come out to seek assistance. Mrs. Hui, thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Ho. I think what Mr. James Toh said could reflect the dissenting views in society. There are voices who told us that even without the RDT, there are already many hidden drug abusers. So this is an egg and chicken problem. Can we shelve the scheme because of our worry, or should we still proceed? I'd like to share with you some statistics. According to cases reported by the disciplined services, the average period of duration of drug abuse is 2.6 years, but from NGOs 5.2 years. So this is not a question of whether the social workers are doing a good job or not, but when law enforcement officers enforce the law, they can identify drug abusers earlier. Mr. Len Leung, the Civic Party has opposed the scheme right from the beginning because we believe this is a question of how we can really help people to stay away from drugs or to get rid of the addiction. We are worried that without proper support, even if you can identify the drug abusers, you can only label them without helping them. And we are not alone in expressing these views. The Bar Association and frontline social workers are of the same view, and you should not ignore these views lightly. Of course, ACAN has proposed to the administration for another study of the proposed program to work out the details. We won't object to that. But Professor Sheck, you recommend a further exploration of the RDTT details. What details are you talking about, and how can these details help to allay the concerns of the Bar Association, the Medical Council, and frontline workers? Can you let us have the direction, please? Professor Sheck. Well, because many people are concerned, and they say that there is no details in the scheme for our discussion. So you talked about supporting measures and facilities. Well, this is exactly what we are going to do. And we should discuss whether this issue should be dealt with like the, say, drunk or drug driving issue. So I believe that with the details, perhaps there can be various options. We may consult the public and stakeholders once again on different options. I hope there can be room for a further exchange of views between different parties. I'm not saying that because we have over 90% support in our opinion poll, we will certainly implement the program. Rather, what I mean is there is no clear consensus whether the community is in support or not. I hope that the second round of consultation will help us to do that. As Ms. Amlila said, we have to overcome all difficulties. If we do not have a consensus, it is difficult to get the support of the community. So supporting measures and other supporting facilities will be the focus. Yes, Dr. Dick, yes. Even if the police have identified the drug abusers, without supporting facilities and services is useless. We have noted a lot of concerns in the opposition, and I think Mr. James too has reflected some of their concerns. Now, if with the scheme, social workers cannot play their role more effectively, this is not what we want. So next stage, we would like to see how supporting services and measures should be provided. So we expect discussions in the community. Mr. Gary Chen, Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak, although I'm not a member of the panel. I am all for the RDT program because a similar scheme called Healthy School Campus scheme is being carried out in Taipo. And statistics tells us that since the implementation of the trial scheme, we have seen an obvious reduction in the number of young abusers in that are below 21 years old. Because, of course, we have heard the concerns of social workers, human rights concern groups, and teachers. And some social workers have told us that the RDT will only will only make this problem or make these abusers more hidden. I'd like to ask the professor, you have consulted a lot of stakeholders. I'd like to know whether you have engaged the views of frontline social workers serving ex-drug abusers. Because recently I have talked with some of them, and they are very supportive of the scheme. That is a big discrepancy from what we have heard. So I'd like to know whether you have sought the views of frontline social workers serving ex-drug abusers. Secondly, there are concerns over excessive powers for the police. I'd like to know whether the scheme will take reference from the legislation for drug driving. Will the threshold be higher or lower? Dr. Zhao, I'd like to share with you the views of some social workers. Now, in the past, heroin addicts could take drugs for 20, 30 years, and a drug addict can decide to kick habit 30 years afterwards and still can become can still win an outstanding award, youth award. But for drug abuse now, the damage to the body can be irreversible. Some parents have told us that a social worker has been following up on their kids' case for a few years, but the situation is only getting worse. And according to studies overseas, if we keep waiting, in 9 out of 10 cases, you won't see the day when the abusers take the initiative to be treated. Now, some social workers say that if the drug abuser has no motivation, then you cannot handle the case. But some medical social workers and healthcare workers have seen cases where there's no motivation at all. In the past, you could wait for years until the drug abuser was willing to be treated. But nowadays, the person can suffer irrevocable damage to their body. So motivation is not necessarily a prerequisite. In a treatment center, we are thinking of not just identify drug abusers to prosecute them or jail them. For those who have abused drugs for a long time, we will see whether there can be an alternative. He will be asked to receive treatment, but there will be no criminal record for him. So because the whole problem is transforming, we want to use a new way. Thank you. We have completed the first round of questions. Mr. Coker, you still have the second round? No? I'm sure members of ACAN have heard clearly the views of members. So please take into account their views and if you are going to carry out a second round of public consultation, members of the panel would like to be involved as well. Thank you. We go on to the fourth agenda item, and that is training to police officers in the use of force and firearms. For this item, we have Mr. John Lee, Undersecretary for Security, Mrs. Millie Ng, PS for Security, Mr. Paul Lau, Director of Hong Kong Police College, Mr. Lau Cheng Fung, Superintendent, Support Branch from the Police, and Mr. Andrew Marcus McGrenra, Superintendent of Police Weapons from Weapons Training, acting. So we already got the paper from the administration, so I will give the floor to Mr. John Lee for a very quick introduction, and then I'll open the floor to members for questions. Thank you. Mr. Lee. Chairman, good afternoon. We'd like to brief the panel on the training to police officers and the use of force and firearms provided by the Hong Kong Police Force. The police have the responsibility to adopt lawful measures to maintain public safety and public order, as well as safeguard people's life and property. On occasions where an act causing danger to others is occurring or is about to occur, the police shall, based on the circumstances as seen, make assessments and exercise professional judgment to take appropriate actions, which include using the minimum force required in a bid to ensure safety and public order. The police have clear guidelines and training in the use of force. Police officers may use minimum force as appropriate only when such an action is absolutely necessary and where there are no other means to accomplish the lawful duty.
Police officers shall give a verbal warning prior to the use of force as far as circumstances permit, while the persons involved shall be given every opportunity whenever practicable to obey police orders before force is used. Now, the principles are only the minimum force will be used, and when on-scene circumstances permit, police officers who give warning shall give warning of the intention to use force and of the nature and degree of force. And the persons involved shall be given every opportunity whenever practicable to obey police orders. Now, use of force training is provided, and on the what means to use, such as use of verbal advice, verbal control, empty hand control, OC, foam, batons, and firearms, etc. We will be glad to answer the questions. James Toh. Now, in 2011, in one of your publications, a senior inspector, Mr. Ling, now he shared some of his own experience when he took the test for the training. Now, a certain person was trying to make escape from the police officer. That person took out a 4-inch knife. The police officer pointed his handgun at him and warned him. The person still came forward, and he took the police officer took out the baton, and now the inspector questioned whether that should be the right principle to use force. Now, the police should use firearms only as the last resort to protect, to save the life of the citizen or of the officer himself. Now, it's now 2014. Are you still using the same training, the same modeling approach? So are you saying that in the scene that I described, one should use the gun? we are aware of the article that Mr. James Toll mentioned, and we gained an understanding with the writer. At the time, the firearms training, the simulated training served only one purpose. That is, when you want to use the firearms, what considerations should you have? Now, we agree with that. We shouldn't just be concerned about the use of firearms. So in the period, we introduced simulated training in the use of force training. So we have introduced new training for several years on the considerations for the use of firearms. So we think that there should be a progressive use of judgment in the use of firearms. So in certain scenes, if you need to only use a certain level of force without firearms, and if it's appropriate, then in that situation, then that should be the approach. Now, one possibility is that we might go and actually visit your training process. Now, or you can come and give us a briefing on how you have adopted a more complicated approach, and we can then be convinced whether your progressive approach is the right one. Elizabeth Quack, I first like to praise the police that when they handle these unforeseen circumstances, how they should approach it. Now, earlier at Hong Nai Court in Lam Tin, there was a case of police officer firing at an occupant, and there was a lot of discussion. Now, so I feel that when police is attacked in 2005, Chu Chen Kwok was cut with a knife and he became paralyzed. So we knew that when police are faced with armed attackers, they are under great danger and danger to the lives of the public. So, but still, people are concerned whether the officer needs to fire so many shots. Does the officer need to shoot at the head? So the police need to explain when training is officered. During training, what are the circumstances for firing at what parts of the body? Undersecretary, when we consider using firearms, because it's the highest level of force, so we need to make the utmost, take the utmost care. So we require the officer to bear in mind that it's only when he wants to protect himself or others from loss of life or severe damage to the body. Now, in the Lam Tin incident, the police received a report of the incident, so officers were dispatched, and they found a male using a cutter and was holding a person, and when he saw his wife, he became emotional and he used the cutter in his attack. So that was the situation. The officer was trying to avoid the threat of danger to himself or others. Now, in the Chu Chan Kok incident, there was a 4-inch knife involved, and unfortunately, Mr. Chu Chan Kok is still paralyzed and in bed. So the situation is that there is severe danger to others' life. Now, in 1990, in the United Nations, there was setting out of principles on use of firearms, and this is exactly what we are adopting. In Principle 9, it says that the law enforcement officer cannot use firearms unless in self-defense or to prevent someone from being killed or severely injured, or to prevent such a person from hurting others so that he will not injure others to that extent. So the officers are complying exactly with these guidelines and with the UN guidelines. Kok Wai Keung. Thank you, Chairman. Now, just now, Ms. Kwok asked the question I wanted to ask, but I have a couple of questions still. Now, the police, recently, there were more cases of armed acts, whether in attacks of police officers or others. Now, I believe the police would absolutely follow the guidelines. Now, in protecting the life of the officer, have you stepped up the training? Because we are concerned that the police are now facing many varieties, many incidents of a great variety that are endangering the lives of the officers. So how do you handle that? Now, firstly, the police places top priority on the health and lives of the officers. So the police adopts a stringent and effective scheme of training. Any police officer in basic training has to undergo 2 days of shooting training, and he has to pass a test, and 3 times a year he has to undergo a judgment or a consideration whether he should undergo training, and there is tactical training to let the officer face certain simulated situations. For instance, when intercepting somebody to search him, or when somebody is suspected of possession of drugs and the person will resist, or if the person is in possession of weapons, or when there is an action to round up criminals, what would be the way to implement the action. So all these are part of our training. And also, when people break the law and engage in violence, the police in deploying use of force will adopt the force at different levels, and that's part of the training. Now, so we will adopt minimum force, so there will be verbal advice and then verbal warning, and then if that becomes still ineffective, force will not be adopted right away. So, for instance, OC foam will not be adopted. Rather, there will be empty hand control. And we try to adopt first more moderate methods of empty hand control. And now this is designed by a U.S. company. They send their staff to train us. Ms. Emily Lau, just now Mr. Toh mentioned a case that the Undersecretary, I believe, is aware of. So when you train your staff, please tell them to use appropriate level of force, and as you said, it should be minimal force. Now, the police officers often have to handle a variety of situations. On the use of force, recently you know that there have been demonstrations and Occupy Central, etc. At the time, the people were very calm and reasonable, but when you try to clear the grounds, you use there's quite a lot of physical force, and people felt pain. The people didn't try to resist. So you have heard these complaints. How do you conduct the training? Now, if somebody wants to really fight with you, then you apply greater physical force. But do you actually need to do that?
Well, under item 6, we are going to discuss this, but this is about training. Well, this is mainly about the training and the use of firearms. No, in the use of force and firearms. Undersecretary. Thank you. Ms. Amina said that the operation done in the early morning of the 2nd of July, well, yes, the majority of the protesters were peaceful and some of them were cooperative, but there were some protesters who resisted and did not cooperate with us when we tried to arrest them. Now, this is from today's newspaper. Which paper, please? Which paper, please? I can show you. One Way Pow or well, the customs. I can give you a copy. Yes, please do so, Secretary, afterwards. I think photos speak much louder than any words. Now, during the operation, some protesters were yelling and protesting, and then a protester struggled when he was being removed. Can I have a look, please, Undersecretary? Yes. I'd like to explain to members. The force used only minimum force, and that is control of acupoints. Can I invite Mr. Paul Lau, the superintendent of the, to explain to you what is meant by what's the technique? U.S. said it started in the U.S. and many law enforcement agencies over the world are using this, including the U.S. and some advanced democracies, FBI of the FS of the U.S. and Australia and even the U.K. Well, they use fingertips to press the nervous nooks of the protester's body to cause pain and to make them follow the lawful instructions of the police. For instance, we may have to press the nervous nooks of the face. The police officer will first use his hand to press the forehead of the protester to stabilize his head and to ensure safety, because when there is pain, when the pressure point tactics is used, that can cause the person to move and cause injury to the police officers and the protesters. Well, the protesters were rational and peaceful. Why do you have to press so many pressure points? Mr. Wong Kwok Kin. All right, this paper is about the use of firearms in the main, but a related matter is if a minimum force is necessary or sufficient, then the police officer concerned will not use his gun easily. If using empty hand control, it is sufficient. I think the training is dynamic and a continuum. So his judgment, his willpower, and his decision on when to use firearms. Now, if you only talk about the number of training he receives in a year, now, at the spark of the moment, he has to make a decision or judgment whether he should draw his handgun. I think this training is more important than the number of firing drills per year. So, Undersecretary, do you have any response in this regard? Because of time constraint, when I answered members' questions, I said that we need the principles for the use of different levels of force. This is an important part of our training. In our simulated training, we have at least 3 per year, and during training, we have simulated occasions. For instance, a person suddenly dash out, chanting verbal abuse. How will you handle that? And what if he is using a weapon or a tool? Then will OC film be needed? Would a baton be needed? There is no need to escalate to the highest level of force. This is our training. When force is needed, it should start with the minimum force necessary, and there should be a verbal advice to warn the person to obey police orders. Our intention is to handle a case peacefully. So the training of police officers will tell him how to decide the level of force to use. This is a very important point. We want to ensure that police officers would not resort to unnecessary force, but sometimes you may overdo it. I remember there was a case when 2 police officers accompanied an ambulance into a unit, and then a mental health patient took out a knife, and then one police officer fled from the flat, and other ran into a room to seek help, and then the ambulanceman was left to face that mental health patient alone, and subsequently the father of the patient subdued the patient. Well, all police officers have to make a judgment in the light of the actual circumstances at scene. We have to remind police officers to be vigilant, and the kind of professional force to use to control the situation as seen. Well, every year we provide training to officers to meet this standard. Thank you. Mr. James Stone, the second time, and then I'll draw a line. How many more? Mr. Leung Chi-Chang will go first. First time. Thank you, Chairman. Of course. When frontline police officers are in a dangerous situation, or when they are faced with an armed person, we want to ensure that they can apply what they were taught in training. Take the Lambton situation now. If that person was holding a cutter, threatening an other unarmed person, then the police had the responsibility to stop him. And I guess he thought that the most effective way was to shoot him. But people that gave people the impression that how come someone holding a cutter would warrant being shot a number of times. I think that's the cause of the controversy. I think it is based on the public's assessment of the danger that can be caused by that cutter. Now I have checked. In 2001, there was also a shot-out firing by police officers because a stolen car hit a police vehicle, and then a policeman hit that or shot the culprit. And then at Hong Shui Kiu, there was another case. A police officer was attacked and he shot the culprit 3 times and he died. And then in 2009, Nepalese man was shot in Home and Teen. He was urinating at the hillside there, and then OC foam and also baton was used, and subsequently the suspect was shot to death with 2 shots. And then in 2012, in Sam Shui Po, the police were tackling a chopping case, and the suspect wielded his chopper at police officers, and then he was shot to death afterwards. Those cases were not so controversial, but for this one, even legislators have commented on this case a number of times. Now, according to the police general orders and also training are such that police response would depend on the response of the suspect. Will your PGOs and guidelines ask frontline officers to give more verbal advice to calm him down in this case, because he was attacking his own wife? So can you enhance training in the use of verbal advice for your officers? Under Secretary, advice and warning would certainly happen. They will certainly be done before further action. But if they fail, then the officers would have to take further action. You mentioned the cutter, but this alone is not sufficient. You have to consider the distance between the officers and also that person, and also the time allowed for him to make that decision. But if the two are really close, and if the officer had to make that decision in the split of a moment, then, well, it's totally different. We will wait for the coroner's inquest. Mr. James Toh, as the Undersecretary said, there would be a coroner's inquest later, so I won't talk too much about this case. But since the Undersecretary said that it was very simple, I'd like to follow up with a few sentences, because family members of the victim asked me to help. In fact, there were 5 persons surrounding that suspect. We would see the videotapes later. You were on alert. You had people surrounding the suspect, and were extendable batons used, were minimum force necessary used. I think we will know later. And we have this letter from Ling Kim Kong. He's concerned that when he was trained, he was asked not to use the baton. Instead, he was asked to use his gun to shoot the other person during training. So in these 10 years, you have been, police officers have received many rounds of training and tests. When the other party uses a cutter, then I should use a gun. Otherwise, you would fail. So from 2001 to 2014, now you have a new program. You have training to use the baton, so on and so forth. I'd like to know whether officers trained that received training in the past decade or so have got refreshed training in the past 3 years. Because these officers were taught to use a baton or use that gun when the other party uses a knife. Now, you talk about the distance between the two and also the location and also the time allowed to make that decision. Can you offer refresh training to these officers to rectify their concept, previously taught concept that when the other person has a knife, he must use his gun? Mr. To talked about our old training. Well, it was all changed in 2002. From 2002 to now, we have a focus on exactly what Mr. James To referred to. We teach them how to use verbal advice, verbal control, empty hand control, OC film, batons and firearms. And then we have simulated training. But why did you tell us in your first response that you only introduced that in the past few years? If you said something wrong, you can just admit that. No, my memory. You said that this was only done in these few years. Now, it doesn't matter. Is it that you have new training starting from 2002? Well, the training was changed in 2002.
Please supply us with more detail. What time did that training last until? How many people were training? And then how many people were trained since the new training was adopted? Should you retrain those who were trained under the old mode? We will provide the information to Mr. James To. But I'd like to stress again. Now, since 2002, it's been over 10 years. Now, every year, the police officers have to undergo that training. So every year, as I said, there would be at least three training sessions of simulated situations. It's 3 times a year, and now it's been over a decade. And the police feel it's important, so we have dealt with it. We will be glad to provide the information. Now, I think we have concluded the discussion on this item. We thank the 5 officials for attending. Now, the 5th item on the agenda, the development of computer system for provision of post-dispatch advice in the Fire Services Department. We have with us Mr. John Lee, Undersecretary for Security, Ms. Bella Mui, PAS for Security, Mr. Lee Kin Yat, Deputy Director of Fire Services, Mr. John Young, Assistant Director, Ambulance, Dr. Exo Xiu, Medical Director of Ambulance Command, and Mr. Ngai Tak Yong, Senior Division Officer. I'd like to remind you, now according to Rule of Procedure 83A, now in the panel where there are direct pecuniary interests involved, the members cannot move a motion or speak on that unless the nature of the interests are disclosed. So I remind members, if you do have such pecuniary interests, you have to declare them. And now, Now, before this, we have received several documents, including letter from the Fire Services Ambulance Men's Union, that's 201, document number 201, and we have also received today the letter from the Hong Kong Fire Services Control Staffs Union, and we've also received communications from the public, and these are all on the table. The FSD is proposing to introduce a post dispatch advice computer system. The guidelines have been provided, and 99% of the public have expressed satisfaction. So we have introduced a computer system to provide more comprehensive post-dispatch advice to stabilize the situations of the injured persons, and we use internationally recognized software, and we identify over 30 types of injuries, situations, and advice is administered. There will be 2 operators, so there will be no delay in the dispatch of ambulances. Now, the present mode of service and pledges will still be observed. In 95% of the cases, the ambulances will arrive in 20 minutes, and the relevant organizations have been consulted, and they have all expressed their support. We believe we have expect that the sum involved is $37.8 million with support by LegCo. The new scheme will come into effect in July 2017. And now I will now ask my colleague to provide several examples of the advice. Mr. Lai? I will now cite 3 cases of simulation of post-dispatch advice: injury to the eye, epileptic seizure, and loss of consciousness after fainting. So these are the relatively simple guidelines. Now, in the first case, a cleaning worker was injured in the eye by the acidic fluids, and there will be a operator, and then the dispatch officer, the phone operator, will ask for the location, the contact phone number, and what had occurred. And at this time, the computer will dispatch the ambulance, so there will be no delay to the dispatch of the ambulance vehicle. And during this time, the phone operator continues to ask for more information about the injured person. For instance, whether the person is still conscious. Is it know how his eye was injured? Now, the text has been carefully designed in a systematic manner. The phone operator will then follow the computer instruction to provide advice, for instance, to wash the eye with a lot of water, and to keep the head at a level higher than his chest. If the injured person cannot receive the advice in a timely manner, then the consequences may be very serious. Because if the chemicals are washed away too late, it may eventually lead to blindness. And in the second case, somebody is suspected of in being in epileptic seizure, and the phone operator will ask three simple questions. The ambulance will be dispatched by computer, and then there will be questions asked. For instance, whether there is a record known of the epileptic illness. Is he still conscious? Is he still breathing? Then the computer will suggest certain advice. For instance, that person should not have something hard put into his mouth. Any dangerous article should be removed. And after the seizure has stopped, attention should be paid as to whether he is still breathing, and if he is vomiting, he should be moved onto his side, and his mouth should be cleared. Now, without such advice, the airway may be blocked because of the vomit, and breathing may stop as a result. Also, some onlookers may be ignorant, and they may perform dangerous acts. For instance, put a spoon into the person's mouth to pry it open. They thought that this would prevent the person from biting his own tongue. And in fact, when a hard object put into the mouth will injure the mouth, and the teeth may fall off and block the airway. And also, if dangerous articles nearby are not removed in time, the object may fall down and injure the person. So these are consequential damages. Now, in the last simulated case, someone has fainted. As previously, the phone operator will ask the three basic questions, and the computer will dispatch the vehicle. And in the meantime, the questions will be asked whether breathing is normal, what is the interval of breaths, and whether the person is conscious, whether it's known that the person has heart disease, and so on. And the instructions, the advices will include the following: to see whether someone nearby can help to see whether there's AED, to lay the person flat on the floor, and to put some kind of object to under his head to ensure that his head is slightly lifted upward, to ensure that he continues to breathe and that his airway is clear. If there is vomiting, the mouth should be cleared to prevent his airway being blocked. Now, if there is no post-dispatch advice, then this person who fainted might have his airway blocked, and his breathing may stop. The vomit may flow into his lungs, and there may be further cause of disease and stop of breathing. So we have Mr. Leung Kai-cheung, Mr. Leung Chi-cheung, Mr. Charles Mok, Yip Kin Wing, Elizabeth Quack, Kwok Wai Keung. We will have another item of agenda. Any other members? No? 3 minutes each, please. Mr. Leung Kai-cheung. Now, the questions cited just now, are they generated automatically by the computer? And what is the advice for what the person on the scene should do? So the control center does not have to make any decision? That's correct. the design of the software was formulated by the International Association of Ambulances, and they already considered what are the right things to do, and the U.S. professional associations have also given their consent. Now, on how the questions are derived. Now, professional medical staff have studied the matters very carefully, and it's backed by clinical experience. And in the process, they have a dynamic process to find out what is the appropriate instruction or advice. Now, these guidelines have been used for over 30 years in a number of countries. Now, the control center staff, is he required to have some basic medical knowledge? Now, we have seen the letter from the Ambulance Men's Association. They believe that the controls, the person who gives the advice should have some basic medical knowledge. Now, you get an answer from question A, and then you have to decide whether to ask question B or question C. So is the person required to have basic knowledge, and what training will you offer them? First, the questions have to be followed strictly by the phone operator. The questions have been designed very carefully, and they have been tested through in practice. And so no personal judgment can be input. You must follow the logic, and the computer will analyze the results and give the right advice.
Mr. Lam Chi Chang. The computer system may not necessarily bring merits to the provision of PDA. Now, that's my view. For instance, if a friend, or anyway, if somebody called 999, I think the FSD would give him some advice, give some advice to the caller, and that is not very different from the use of a computer. Why do you think that a computer system would make it more efficient? Thank you. First, under our current dispatch system, after we have received that three basic pieces of information, we will deploy an ambulance to the scene. During the 10 minutes before arrival, we will not have any post-dispatch advice or PDA to the caller. The merit of this system is in the 10 minutes before the ambulance arrives, we will give very useful PDA to the caller. If the caller has no such knowledge, or if he is really panicking, if he follows PDA given to him, that we're able to help him, or to help the person in distress. But the caller may be in panic. Will he be able to take the PDA? Will he be able to carry it out? Will that lead to future claims? We've just given you some cases as an example. The advice was very simple. Even if the caller doesn't know what to do, we can tell him at least things to avoid injury to the person in distress. And some of the advice can help our ambulance officers to be able to see to the person who's sick earlier. According to overseas experience, PDA is very useful, and there's been no litigations arising from that. May I supplement? 99% of the users are of the view that are satisfied with the system. For the remaining 1%, well, they may already be aware of first aid measures to take, or sometimes the caller might be too old or too young to follow the advice. So the satisfaction rate is over 99%, and that's why FSC thinks that it will be useful. Ms. Elizabeth Quat, I support the development of the computer system for the provision of PDA. This shows that IT can help to save lives and can be really useful in case of an emergency. Without a computer system, I think it is difficult to, if not impossible, to provide PDA to a caller. And I think it is a good step for the FS2 to employ IT to improve its services. Now, you are going to cover 33 areas. I'd like to know whether this is based on international or due to, is it on the basis of advice being used by international users? Well, there are 33 types of injuries or sickness, and they are devised according to the International Ambulance Association. So when we will translate them into Chinese for our own use, and we have Dr. Xiu, the medical director, to help so that the system can be suitable for local use. All right, there will be 33 types covered in the PDA. Will there be further development, or do you think that 33 types is already enough? And we're going to develop e-medical record in Hong Kong. Can e-medical record be used in the ambulance? Of course, with the consent of the victim or patient. Mr. Lee, there are 33 types of injury or sickness proposed. In fact, the international organization conducts a review every year to see whether new injuries or sicknesses should be added. So we will keep in line international development. And for e-medical record, it's mainly used in hospitals. The most important task of our ambulance services is to stabilize the condition and carry the patient to hospital ASAP. We have paramedics to confirm the condition of the patient, and then he will be carried to the hospital as soon as possible. By then, their e-electronic record will be useful. Thank you. Mr. Frankie Yik, if you look at para 2 of the paper, you are only able to cover 6 types of illness or injuries since 2006. Now you can increase the coverage to 33 types. This is a major improvement. Under 10C, you say that FSCC's call takers, where necessary, will send information gathered about patients' conditions to frontline ambulance crew who are on the way to the scene of an incident. I'd like to know why it will only be done when necessary. Should the information be fed to the frontline ambulance crew regardless, because it is always advantageous for the crew to be well informed of the condition. Well, we say when necessary because it depends on the patient's condition. If the condition is minor, it is easy to handle. So it is not necessary for the crew to have that information. But when we talk about a heart problem or a convulsion or epilepsy, such information will help the crew to be well prepared to bring along the right medication and appliances to help. Yes, I agree with you, but since you have call takers with the basic information, regardless of the condition of the patient, the information should be sent to the frontline ambulance crew because the crew would like to know the medical appliances or medication are needed to bring to the scene. Will you make it mandatory measure then? Thank you. We will consider this possibility. We will reflect this in the system. Mr. Charles Mock, to be followed by Mr. Kwok Wai Keung. Thank you. We are given an estimate of the system. Of course, we have yet to examine the budget in the FC, but I feel that we don't have enough elaboration here. We don't know how the money will be spent. Can we be given more information as soon as possible? Because you already have an FSCC communication center. If at the back end you add a data bank to ask questions or to wait for the answer, so on and so forth. And yet the proposed budget here is quite considerable. So can we be given more information? Please tell us what is the current workflow so that we understand why so much money is needed. Because I think for answers, you can get it free of charge from the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. Is that right? So why do you have to spend so much money on this system? Mr. Lee, well, we have to spend money on both the computer hardware and software. We also have to merge this one with our existing computer system. There will also be staff costs, and a majority of the money will be spent on computer software. Because the computer software will cover both questions and PDA in the form of answers. We have to pay the IAED because it is such a big organization. It has to ensure that the PDA is useful to different conditions. So computer software, we have to spend money to buy the software, and there will also be contribution to the IAED. Mr. Chenham, Mr. Kwok, you are going to use a computer system. I'd like to know whether a manual operation is needed. Will there be a controller to control the computer, or will the calls be automatically answered by the computer system? Or will an operator be needed to key in the information into the computer system? real person will keep in touch with the caller. The controller will input the answer into the computer, and when there are new questions, there will be a communication between our call taker and the caller. So there will be real person-to-person communication. But you have call takers who have the professional expertise and knowledge. Why do you have to introduce a computer system? Because for these so-called questions, I think the call takers already have them. Why do you need a computer system to ask questions? Undersecretary, now we only cover 6 types of injuries or sicknesses, so we want to expand that to 33 with the new system, because we have to use these questions to decide whether the best PDA is provided. The computer system will address this. This is the most important part. We don't want any first aid advice tendered to be not professional enough. So we have expanded the number of conditions to 33, and they're being used by over 3,000 odd disciplined forces or similar setups. We don't want to take the risk. It's true that we can gradually expand the number of conditions one by one, but that will be too slow, and the system has the merit to ensure continued communication between the call taker and the caller. And then the information will also be at once fed to the ambulance crew. 99% of the users have indicated satisfaction. And in one case, we're told that the caller, or rather the taker, don't like the conversation to be disrupted. All right, we have discussed this for quite a while. Do we agree that this paper can be submitted to the FC for discussion? I apologize because there are other topics of concern next door.
Sorry. Concerning this application, I'd like to get the views of the unions concerned, because we have received different letters, some anonymous, which we can't handle, but the ambulance union, they have been very clear and in their views. So before I express my support or objection, I hope to hear from the frontline staff concerned with their experience. I don't know how much of a hurry you are in. You certainly cannot go to the Finance Committee before the end of the current session in end July. So can we hear from these unions and individuals? Now, this matter has to be discussed in Finance Committee, so we will note this concern, and the administration can pass on the message for the individuals and the unions to express their views. As for this panel, I think we need to let members vote. as you said, there will be a lot of time available. So are we in principle agreed? So if we are agreed in principle, then we will pass this to the Finance Committee for discussion. And we will write to the associations concerned for them to express their views. I have reservations. At Finance Committee, we cannot invite the staff to come and express their views. That can only be done in the panel. Now, can the staff be invited here, or can we go to the control centers? Yes, we will consider that. Now, item number 6, the police handling of public meetings and public processions. The document has been provided, CB 2, 1994, 1994, 1314 to bracket 01. Now, the officials here to assist us include Mr. John Lee, Under Secretary for Security, Mrs. Millie Ng, PAS for Security, Mr. Edwin Lam, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Nelson Chang, Senior Superintendent of Police, Ms. Monica Ao Young, Superintendent for Licensing. Nine members wish to have asked for this discussion. So will the Undersecretary please take us through the document in a succinct manner first? Today's discussion is response to members' concern about the arrests after the June 1st processions. First, I'd like to express that the police respect the rights of the public to express their views, but the police have also the duty to maintain public order and to minimize the impact on others. The processions on July the 1st, according to the letter of no objection, it should end on 11:59 p.m. on July the 1st. Those who have not left in time are in breach of the agreement and of the public order ordinance. Now, the demonstrators were blocking Chater Road. They breach public safety and order. In order to resume public order and safety, the police decided to effect arrest in accordance with the law. The officers concerned have given plenty of advice and verbal warnings, and in the absence of choice, they adopted the minimal force when it's absolutely unavoidable. From the clearing at Chater Road to the taking of persons to Wong Chuk Hang, 512 were apprehended and 486 were later released. For those detained at Wong Chuk Hang, the police allowed them to see lawyers, provided food and drink and water, but because there were numerous people involved, the police needed time to make the arrangements. The police will learn from the experience to enhance the arrangements in the future. I and my colleagues from the police force will be glad to answer the questions. Now, let me name the members who have raised their hands. Claudia Mo, Leung Kai Cheung, Kwok Wai Keung, Chan Kam Lam, Sid Ho, Elizabeth Quack, Yik Chi Ming, UC Wing, Christopher Chung, James Toh, Emily Lau. Is that the order? Yes. Charles Mok, Wong Kok Kin, Chen Kim Po, Chen Chi Chun, Lam Tai Fai. There are 16 members who wish to speak. Any more? Uh, 18, including Mr. Michael Tan. And okay, another 19. Now, with 3 minutes each, it will take us to 6 o'clock. If it's 4 minutes, we will go beyond the time limit. I think 4 minutes is more appropriate. That will take 72 minutes. Can I draw the line there? Or should we have 3 minutes each? Okay, 3 minutes. If those come in later and want to speak, they will have less time. Claudia Mo? Thank you, Chairman. Now, after July 1st processions at midnight, you arrested so many people. It was very bad timing. Hong Kong was shamed internationally. It was a peaceful meeting. It wasn't specifically a demonstration. Nobody threw anything. There was no physical movements of limbs, etc. And yet the police cleared the grounds at midnight. This is a spontaneous meeting. You said there was no previous application before 11:59 p.m. So it's an illegal meeting thereafter. Let's not play this game. It's never happened in Hong Kong. Why do you create such a precedent? It's unnecessary. Now, it seems that it's very difficult to convict. Now, we have good officers, but at the front line, they can only implement the orders from their superiors. They even arrest a dog or dogs. Now, a lady took a dog with her, and you even arrested the dog. Now, the police force has become a political tool. Now, you can't succeed in your prosecution. You want to occupy Central, so I try to intimidate you. As I explained, the police has the duty to maintain public order and safety. Now, after 11:59, that is starting from midnight, it becomes illegal. At the time, there were about 1,000 people. You can imagine that if these people were still there next morning when people had to work. Now, the demonstrators said that they would disperse by 8 a.m. the next day. This was a peaceful meeting. Hong Kong has freedom of meeting. That's according to Article 27 of Basic Law. Now, Under Secretary, the police has to act in accordance with the circumstances and take appropriate action. At the time, the meeting was already illegal, and the number of participants would cause unacceptable traffic situation the next day. Now, when officials respond, please let them reply. If Mr. Leung Kai-cheung, I'd like to ask the traffic arrangements for July the 1st. Now, I understand that the appeals board has listened to the applications, has heard the applications, and they decided that there would be 3 lanes plus the tram track, and that would, and then there was another. It was also said that the police were asked to exercise discretion, and if necessary, the other side of the road would be open. Now, and this year there were more demonstrators than previously. So I also saw many people on the march. Also, what would be the criteria for opening the 3 eastbound lanes as well? Because in 2003, that was done, and people were able to finish the procession and go home at 8 or 9. So what would be the criteria for you to open the eastbound lanes as well? Now, you have said that you need an EVA, emergent vehicle access, but the eastbound lanes were also very congested at that time. If you want an EVA, now, have you considered let the emergency vehicles arrive by some other way?
We've got only 1 minute. Mr. Lam, please. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Leung. I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify that we did not open just 3 lanes. 3 lanes, there were 2 more, the tramway, so there were more than 3 lanes opened. Now, for such large-scale processions and demonstration, so we attach a lot of significance to risk assessment. The bigger the crowd, the greater the risks involved. In a high-risk situation, there may be more casualties and injuries. We've seen such cases overseas. And a very important factor we consider is Wan Chai fire services, fire station, and it need an eastbound lane available for fire engines to move. Thank you. Mr. Chen and Pan. Now, there is another clarification here. I think we've already indicated on other occasions that we support the police to carry its duties in a lawful manner. In Hong Kong, with the rule of law, and if it is an illegal public meeting, and you say that because it is peaceful, it is not illegal, this is not what Hong Kong, a society where we have the rule of law, wants. Some people some arrested persons claimed that they didn't have any food to eat. So I'd like to ask the police, were there proper meal arrangements on the internet? Now, there were police officers who expressed their views, although they did not disclose their identity. They were under great pressure. Well, they didn't take any meals themselves for the whole day, and they were under great pressure. Was that true? And secondly, the so-called Occupy Central activists claim that there would be many people in the movement were concerned as to whether there would be sufficient police manpower. and whether police officers will have sufficient rest and shift arrangements after they've been on duty. Thank you, Mr. Kwok. Meal arrangement. Well, there are two considerations. First, meal arrangements are for the arrested persons. As our usual practice, we offer 3 meals, including breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and of course we'll also supply water. But let me stress that 511 persons were arrested. Well, in Hong Kong, even for the whole of Hong Kong, on average we only arrest 100 daily. So 2 arrested persons per police station. 511 arrested persons were arrested in one movement. It's just like the Hong Kong Cross Harbour Tunnel. You have to wait when there are many vehicles. So for meal arrangements, arrested persons had to wait. And as for meal arrangements for our colleagues, we also a lot of store by that. In our large-scale operations, we attach significance to supplying food to our staff. There is a dedicated team in the personnel wing of the police force. There will be 3 meals provided and also snacks or refreshments during breaks. When it comes to actual operation, the actual circumstances as seen may not make it possible for police officers to take a break. Of course, we will learn from this experience, and when there is a similar occasion, we will take care of that. Mr. Chen Kan-nam. Thank you, Chairman. The freedom of public assembly and freedom of speech are protected by law, but all these have to take place in a lawful manner. So anything illegal should not be regarded as being acceptable. In the early morning of the 2nd of July, there was a rehearsal to occupy Central. That was unnecessary. The organizers proclaimed in advance that they would not apply for a letter of no objection. Their intention was to challenge the rule of law, to see whether the police would enforce the law. So people should not do as they like. They should not ask society to accept such behavior. Miss Claudia Mo talked about creating a news. I think this is all the making of the activists and opposition camp. That was unprecedented and should not be any exception. Should not be an exception. As long as the persons concerned, the students in particular, know that this is a society where with the rule of law, they should exercise their right to apply for a letter of no objection from the police. If the police gave them the consent to carry out such activity late at night without affecting public order, they should have got that approval. However, they deliberately did not make an application. They deliberately break the law. And after that, they didn't want to be dispersed or arrested by the police, and they created news themselves. We saw on the TV that when the police dispersed or arrested these people, they were very restrained and very professional. We've seen video footage of what happened in the US and UK and Europe, so-called civilized societies, when they arrested persons in riots or public meetings. All the more I commend our own police force for their very civilized and professional way of handling things. I hope that all persons concerned can apply for approval according to the law in future. If you wish the administration to reply, please remember to leave time for them. Ms. Ho, 551 persons were engaged in civil disobedience, and they were prepared to pay the price, so they did not put up any resistance when they were arrested. However, the police must not abuse their power. When they were detained, they were denied of their right to receive legal assistance. Well, before 5 a.m., there were lawyers available at Aberdeen, but the first batch only could meet the clients at about 8 a.m., and then the second batch 10 a.m., and then in 5 p.m., because the process was so slow, the voluntary lawyers at one time wanted to leave because the police were delaying the time for the arrested persons to receive legal service. And when the 5 organizers were arrested, even their handphones were seized. Then the police might then have access to their legal privilege protection information. So who made the order to seize the handphones or cell phones of the 5 organizers? Because that could infringe into their privacy. They have information in the phones not related to this incident. So who would monitor you? There are 5 questions. I'll try my best. First, seizing the cell phones of the arrested persons. Well, in this case, their cell phones would be used for exhibits because the police have to investigate whether there was a corroboration. And when the persons concerned claim LPP, the cell phones were at once sealed, and the police would seek advice from DOJ and deal with LPP claims according to legal advice. And secondly, Chairman, can I ask the Secretary who made the order to seize their phones? What was the rank of the commander? I have no intention to disclose the details of operation. Police investigation has to have legal basis, and what we did was in line with legal requirements. The DOJ will handle, and anyone who is not happy can complain. Can you tell me the DOJ's advice? I hope I have the opportunity to answer the remaining questions. Meeting lawyers. There was no refusal for anybody's request to meet the lawyer unless by the time his turn arrived, he was already released. The lawyers came in 13 batches, as I said. It's just like using the Cross-Harbour Tunnel at peak hours. Well, the tunnel is open, but you have to wait in queue. There were 551 persons, and the police had to wait. 223 persons who got to see the lawyers because of the sheer number of arrested persons concerned. People had to wait. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Ms. Claudia Mo said that the people claimed that it was a peaceful assembly and they would disperse by 8 a.m. and therefore the police should not arrest them. I think this is a very wrong statement. All public meetings should be notified to the police, and failing that a person commits an offense. So the police should enforce the law and discharge their duties accordingly. I'm worried that many legislators and adults encourage young people to engage in civil disobedience. As Ms. Claudia Mo said, the people knew well beforehand that they would be breaking the law. This is worrying. Now, this you call a rehearsal because 500 odd persons were involved. There was already a jam. It took a lot of time and people to handle them. Next time, when the true movement happened, there might be thousands of participants. How is the police going to tackle that? Thank you, Ms. Quat. As far as efficiency is concerned, the police have been more efficient than all other previous arrests because we have a good deployment and planning, and we have done quite well. For example, we're able to handle close to 100 persons in an hour. In 2001, the 1st of July, there was also arrests, and we tackled 50 persons per hour. So we handled double the number. This time, that doesn't mean that we will not consider how we will handle such situations should there be another massive public meeting. So we have considered how to prevent it, and a contingency plan, and how to deal with the worst case scenario. We will have sufficient planning. Will there be more dynamic and flexible considerations when the police review its operation this time? It will certainly consider this. The police will duly make use of intelligence and consider different risk scenarios and deal with different scenarios. Most important of all, we must be prepared for the worst. We must be sure that they're able to cope with the worst case scenario should it happen. Thank you.
Now, people of different opinions, of course, have different views of the demonstrations. Now, I wasn't there, but afterwards I met Kai Fongs, who said that both sides were very restrained and the police were very appropriate in their action. But in the media, I noticed that there was a police officer. He was interviewed on TV. He spoke in a rather tense manner. He said that the vehicle wasn't moving properly, and then the driver was said that he was acting according to instruction 5 or 10 kilometers per hour. Now, I don't know what was the distance from Victoria Park to the position of that car. Undersecretary, I don't have the information, but I believe the police has that information. It's probably just several kilometers, maybe less than 4 kilometers, according to Mr. Ma Fong Guo. Now, the organizers said it's 5 to 7 kilometers. It should be covered in 1 hour. Why is it that it takes so long? Now, the speed claimed, was it the actual speed? Of course, that would be investigated. Also, there are several facts to be considered. First, in the past from Victoria Park to Sutton Playground, the vehicle will take about 50 minutes. This time it takes 90 minutes. And then the vehicle stopped at Fenwick Street on Hennessy Road for 25 minutes. The police, of course, needed to investigate whether someone has breached the law. It's going to be investigated on whether the organizers and the driver, whether they conspired to incite a congestion to happen. According to the law, any procession in demonstration, whether it received a letter of no objection or not, when the police issued an instruction to them, they have to abide. Otherwise, it's a breach of the law. And also, if they conspired to engage in such law-breaching activity, every person will bear a responsibility. Yu Si Wing, and then Chris Chow. Now, the police in handling the July 1st demonstration and in handling the blockage of Chater Road on July 2nd, we see that the police have suffered a lot. It's very hot weather, and they were subject to strong action by the demonstrators, and they showed restraint. And yet the pan-democratic camp were much less restrained by comparison when they were challenged by certain members of the public. I believe it's a certain member, I believe. Now, perhaps the administration has been subject to a lot of pressure, and maybe will it adopt a more condoning approach as a result, and also will there be can there be improvement in communications with the organizers? Now, the police is a professional group. Hong Kong is a place of rule of law. We have to act according to law. Anyone who breaches the laws of Hong Kong, irrespective of his background and his views, it will not be tolerated. And we have witnessed the quality of past demonstrations. Now, on July 1st, from the start of the procession till the clearing of the grounds until all the demonstrators were released, altogether it was 34 to 36 hours. I thank Mr. U.C. Wing for expressing the appreciation of the professional attitude and the resolute attitude of the police, and I hope it can be appreciated by the public as well. Now, just the demonstrations took 12 hours. The grounds were cleared in 3 a.m. and there were preparations in advance, and also I think throughout all this the police were very resolute in and unflinching, and the police also were very proactive in communicating with the organizers. Every time before the issue of a letter of no objection, there was plenty of communications. Christopher Chung. Now, the police eventually had to clear the grounds on in this case. We can all see that the police have been very restrained, and the demonstrators were lifted off one by one, and it took till 9 a.m. It caused some obstruction to those traveling to work. Now, if it's Occupy Central in full force, then how will the police react? Of course, we appreciate the restraint of the police, and we respect that. But in the view of the demonstrators, they may feel that the police have been impotent and weak. So then they may be encouraged and test the limits. So we are concerned that there have been views expressed recently that the police might be too restrained in handling large-scale incidents. Now, if the Occupy Central movement takes place over a number of days, the police may be tired out and public order will not be maintained. Now, the Central People's Government has it sent officials to find out about the situation? First, on mass incidents, the police will make ample preparation and adopt the right strategy. Now, the action taken in early July 2nd, it shows that the police have been effective in their action. In our arrest and removal of the demonstrators, we handled 100 persons in an hour. In the incident that occurred earlier that I cited, it was only 50 persons per hour. So, of course, we can always learn from the recent experience. Finally, I'd like to reiterate that the police certainly has the capability to take the right action, including the removal of the persons involved. It's now 5:24. I've asked you earlier. We will let all the members ask their questions before we end the session. Emily Lau. Just now, Mr. Chen Kem Lam mentioned the experiences abroad. Now, there have been views expressed abroad that given the large number of demonstrators, the organizers should be regarded as heroes. The Hong Kong government arrested 5 of them. And the secretary is not here. He sent the undersecretary here. The secretary said that the clearing of the grounds was carried out under the surveillance of the media. And on 5th of July, 4th, media organizations issued a declaration. They said that the undersecretary was not speaking in accordance with the facts. He said that it said that there were police obstructing the work of the media. It said that the reporters were asked to leave, and when they didn't leave, they have a threefold cordon, and they pulled them, and the iron fences were erected, and then when the reporters stayed behind the fences, you sent people to block them. And in the police orders, its general orders, it said that the police should be tolerant and try not to prevent the media from taking photos, etc. Is there someone breaking the orders? Now, I reiterate that the police were politically neutral in taking action. The police only considered whether the law was breached in taking action. It's not in respect of the background or the ideas behind. As for media reporting, the police respect the freedom of media reporting. And the police expressed afterwards that to the media organizations that both sides have to do their work. The police have to enforce the law. The media have to report the news. Both sides should report the work of each other. The police has repeatedly reiterated that they respect their freedom to report the news. Has anyone breached the general orders of the police? Now, it's very disappointing. We wanted to discuss the handling of the demonstrations, and yet the pro-establishment camp and the police and the administration were joined in praising the police, whereas we were unable to proceed in for hours, and yet the police are being praised. The Undersecretary said that the police has made a lot of preparation. The Wang Chiuhan Police School was prepared for its subsequent use, and they have booked many coaches. So they have been prepared to remove the demonstrators. The concern is to clear the access to Central. They don't care about other matters, the food, etc. That's not their concern. Now, members stood there for 3 or 4 hours. We were not allowed in to see the persons arrested. The lawyers waited for many hours. I will not repeat that. Alan Leong was a barrister. He was able to enter. He's not here today. He told me that when he went in, the process was allowed to go on rather quickly, and then after he left, it again became very slow, and the media were prevented from reporting. People were not allowed to see the lawyers. There was recrimination. So it is political repression. Now, just now, I heard the Undersecretary say that the preparation was done very well. You said that the clearing was done very quickly, but you didn't mention about anything else. You didn't tell us how improvements can be made. Now, you seem to be saying that the police has a role to prevent this kind of action by the public. What do you mean by prevention? Is it this kind of white terror, like confiscating their mobile phones, so they were not allowed to have food, they could not go to the toilet, they could not see their lawyers? Are you trying by all these means to prevent a recurrence? Wong Kwok Kin.
Thank you, Chairman. Hong Kong is a civilized society, including our police force and members of the public. They are all very civilized. When there is a public meeting with tens of thousands of participants, is really a great pressure to maintain public order. The police acted in a highly professional, restrained manner. In particular, the clearing operation on the 2nd of July in front of so many journalist cameras, we did not see any violence. Some arrested students praised the police officers for being very courteous and gentle after release, and some said that some police officers seemed sympathetic too. However, that public rally aside, there were storms, there were efforts to storm the Legislative, and after the arrest, some arrested persons accused the police officers of beating them, showing their bruises and injuries. But it's strange, they claimed that they were subject to violence by the police, but they didn't complain to CAPO or IPCC. They only complaint to the media? Is it because after formal investigation, they might be charged of malicious report and might incur civil liability? Now, they just want to complain to the media. Is it a means to deter the police from taking action should there be similar massive public meetings such as Occupy Central? Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your support to the police for their way of handling mass or public meetings. Mr. Wong, you asked whether some of the accusations had ulterior motives. Well, there were such examples in the past. The arrested persons wanted to attack the reliability of the prosecution, including whether statements were given under coercion. They made tactical complaints to attack the credibility of the police. But of course, very often they were not successful because when in trial, there would be a hearing on whether the evidence or statements were given under coercion. Now, I cannot speculate whether there was any ulterior motive or hidden agenda behind these accusations, but I would advise such persons to complain to the IPCC or CAPO. Mr. Chen Kim-po, I'm most concerned about the smearing of the force. Individual police officers have to work very long hours, and I think those who had to carry the arrested persons would have a harder job to do. I don't know that some of the accusations might be true, but I hope that the Pan-Democrats would not smear the force as a whole, because we really rely on the force to maintain order. And in front of the TV camera, we can see there is no need to argue with this. Police officers have done, we can all make a judgment whether police officers have done a good job, have upheld professionalism. As the vice chairman of the IPCC, I frequently talk with frontline officers, and they're worried that they may not be treated fairly. If we are hostile to the police, they are very angry. I think most of them are doing their level best, in all honesty, to do a good job. If you frame them, it is not conducive, because if they feel aggrieved, then this is not conducive to our community. If you think they are black sheep, then you tackle them. Please do not think that, or don't say that all police officers are bad. Another concern is that you have limited manpower in the police force. You have so many people to be prepared for the arrest, for the drills, and to arrest and prosecute. You've only got one police force. How can you ensure that the normal duties of police officers will not be undermined? Because the public expect them to catch the drug dealers, traffickers, to maintain order. Many of them were so tired, but they were not commended. This is not fair. How can you ensure that their normal duties will not be affected? Thank you, Mr. Chen. The police force is a professional team. Still, police officers are human beings, and they expect respect. So many officers have indicated their support for the police force for the discharge of the duties. I thank you all. And for unfounded criticism and accusations, I am really disappointed about them. The police will take stock of this experience and conduct a full study to see whether in terms of deployment and tactics there should be other consideration. Of course, if for a prolonged period we are using all of the police forces, this would affect the efficiency and quality of the force service. I think this is common sense, and the police will carry out all-round assessment and deployment. Thank you. Mr. Ray Chen, Su Ai Leung said this morning that community relations of the force are very cordial. I think I can borrow our president's, Mr. Jasper Zhang's remarks. He has oversimplified the situation or the question. He said that, as he said, a relationship between the exco and executive and the legislature was all right. Now, if the protesters decided to leave on a voluntary basis, that's all the best, because you don't have to carry them. And if not, you have to carry them or arrest them and take them to the coach. The more protesters you have, the more difficult it would be for you to carry them to the police coaches. In the past, you usually carried protesters away from the scene. So what is the criteria for making a decision? Well, so far 138 members of the People's Power were arrested after the 2011 rally, and we were arrested to the North Point Police Station, and even the photocopier broke down to take fingerprints. Now, people were taken to the police school, training school in Wong Chok Hang. You were prepared. Well, protesters claimed, or arrested persons claimed, that they had no water, no food, and you said that because there were 500 odd persons, you could not see to their needs all at once. But that was already in your projection. Did you make any projection as to the number of people you would arrested? Shouldn't you increase manpower to have more CID to take a statement so that they don't have to be kicked around from one room to another for 8-9 hours, and they were not allowed to meet the lawyers? Is it your intention to torture them so that they would fear in future they would not take part in such operations? The operation to take will depend on the actual circumstances. The number of participants, the assessed implications and impact, and also deployment and planning of the police. Well, police officers have to carry out very professional assessment. So all situations are different because the circumstances are different. In making plans for large-scale movements such as Occupy Central, the police, of course, are well prepared, and they have broken down the steps into very small steps. They have specialization to enhance the efficiency. Chairman, my question was not answered. I asked the number of persons they expected to arrest, but he only gave me theories. I have to commend the police for being very restrained. I won't say that they are very professional this time, because if they anticipated that hundreds of persons would be arrested, would the police school in Wong Chok Hang be sufficient to cope with the number of detainees? Well, I didn't see that they were very professional this time. But the protesters were prepared to be arrested. Of course, they won't be arrested to a hotel. They must be taken to an area for detention, to restrain to their freedom. They should not expect that they would be allowed to do what they like. So I don't see that the police was wrong in any way. But I must say that the police have been very restrained in the operation. As we can see, each protester was carried by a group of officers one by one. It took a long time for all protesters to be removed. Some people criticized why they could not clear the scene before 8 a.m. I can only say that the police were not professional enough. In fact, as soon as they exceeded the duration of the public meeting, the police could arrest them at once. Now, may I warn you, there will be an Occupy Central movement, and there will be thousands of participants. How are you going to tackle that? You won't be able to use the Wong Chuk Hang Police School to do that. I beg to differ from Mr. Leung's views. I beg to agree that the police were not professional. No, I didn't say they were not professional, just not professional enough. I think our performance is comparable with our counterparts overseas, and it is for you to judge whether we have done a good job or not. In 1 hour, we were able to handle 100 protesters. But of course, in other countries, they usually adopt a different approach. They drag the protester along, but we carried them away from the road. And we don't want to compare with this quality of service. I beg to differ that we were not professional. But of course, we can learn from our experience, and we can always do better. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, when there are scuffles in a public rally, the organizers would always say that the rally was orderly, peaceful, and rational. And the police would always say that they have acted in accordance with the law. So each party is free to defend themselves, and it's difficult for the public to make a judgment. For instance, according to the Civil HR Human Rights Front, the turnout was over 500,000, and according to the police, less than 100,000. Which party should the public trust? I would say that both figures are putting wool over the public's eye. They are both irresponsible and not true.
So the demonstrators had no credibility, and neither had the police, and the public was being misled. Now the police must learn from this experience. Now the public had different views on the actions of the police and of the arrested demonstrators. The police should organize a formal press conference to announce to the public your conclusions and review the information to alleviate people's concerns. Now, a controversial incident in this case is that the leading car traveled at a slow speed, leading to many occurrences. In the future, will the police consider sending a police motorcyclist to lead the way just in front of the leading demonstration vehicle? That will better control the speed. In future, the demonstrations can only get bigger. I thank the member. Now, you said that the police figures are not reliable. Now, the police figures are for internal reference. Now, it is done by counting at several points. Now, that night, 98,600 were counted. Now, if you compare that to the figures announced by Professor Yip Siu Fai of University of Hong Kong, he counted 2 points at Arsenal Street and Percival Street. It's also 90,000. Now, Professor Yip made an adjustment. He felt that many people left or joined. So he added a 30%. So he came up with 122,000. So the Hong Kong University also made an adjustment. they multiplied by the count by 1.38. Now, the police count was for internal reference and released upon request, and it came up to be very similar to that by the university professor. You haven't answered my question. Ma Fong Kwok. Now, on the number issue, now I went to one of the points, and by my assessment, I feel that Professor Yip Siu Fai's figure is quite reliable. My own count is 130 to 150,000. Now, why doesn't the police do it better? That would cause there to be less criticism. For instance, you have prepared the 2 coaches. Maybe you should have mineral water and cakes and warm wet towels, and let them have T-shirts, and so that they smell better. And then you can order meals, hundreds of meals from fast food restaurants. And when they occupy Central Chater Road, perhaps you can book one of the nearby hotels, book the so that you provide them with food, and you have conference rooms for the hotel, for the lawyers. But even if you do all these, some of my colleagues may not feel that you have done enough. Now, Claudia Mo asked why you had to move them even though they said they would leave at 8. Now, well, I wonder at these remarks. Some of them are really absurd. Now, I have observed what the police did. I think we can be proud of their actions. They have acted in a civilized, restrained, and professional manner. I think it's worth our commendation. I hope as a result, the police force can be just as professional in preventing violence. Now, they have done so much. The action should be affirmed and supported. They are not leaning to either side. They are just maintaining the law and order. So I think the Undersecretary should pass on our commendations to the police force. No answer is required. Michael Tian. Now, Chairman, demonstrating against the government occurs in all parts of the world. Hong Kong people has become #1 in the world. I include the demonstrators as well as the police. Over 1,000 demonstrators occupied the street all night. No violent confrontation. They only lied there and shouted slogans. I think this is #1 in the world. This is very civilized and reasonable. The police were also very professional. The 5 policemen carried away 1 demonstrator. 511 demonstrators removed. The cameras showed a little bit of injury, just a scratch. Now, comparing Taiwan and Hong Kong, we were said to be offering first-grade service. We don't even have to use water cannons. Such peaceful clearing is rare in the world. Now, we praise many civilized, so-called civilized countries. How do they clear demonstrations? I've seen many. They won't give many warnings. When they see there's unlawful meeting, they apply arm locks or drag people along the ground. Now, their voting system is world-class. Now, so I think the demonstrators have been quite mild, and I'm also very proud of the conduct of the police. Of course, some people are still unhappy. They were unable to eat between 6 and 10, but people said that they were still able to eat rice with diced meat and corn kernels, whereas the police ate chicken with rice in lotus leaves. Now, you deployed 28 police officers to arrest 500 demonstrators. But how about in the future when there are more demonstrators? You have to take the level higher, of action higher. Well, your time has been used up. 2 members have raised their hands, indicated they wish to speak after I drew the line, so you have 2 minutes each, Leung Kwok Hong and then Helena Wong. I heard Ma Fong Kwok. I was reminded of 1976. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok reprimanded the demonstrators on Tiananmen Square. Now there was a formal meeting in National People's Congress. Now there's no such incident. 1989, the same occupation in Central. How many people were cleared with bloodshed? Don't laugh too early. Unless Hong Kong sings forever. I hope everything is recorded today. Hong Kong will have democracy in the future. These people will say that they have been cheated. Lee Ka-chiu cheated them. Now they have asked the questions, well, did you write the script for them? Secondly, now, when we are demonstrating peacefully, now the IPCC chairman says that people have been tolerant to each other. Now, the IPCC chairman said that it's okay and you sue them, you give them a slap on the face. It was said that it's acceptable, and yet you arrested them. Your time is up. Please stop speaking, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. What do you want to clarify? He mentioned my name. He said that it's in 1970. I don't know what's the basis. In 1976, there was no incident that he mentioned, like that he mentioned. You are a dog of the Communist Party. He should withdraw that remark. I want him to withdraw the remark. Leung Kwok Hong, please stop speaking. Now you were merely serving as a lackey to the Communist Party. Ma Fong Kwok, was it whether it was fact, well, he may say many things that are not factual. So I will not ask him to withdraw his remark. Mr. Leung, you must not speak anymore. Otherwise, I will ask you to leave. Helena Wong, Chairman. Just now, I heard many pro-establishment members voice their support for the police and for the government. Now, we see on camera that when the students were lifted away by the police, it appeared professional, but the next day, that morning, I went to Wong Chuk Han Police School. I was outside, and some of the persons released said that they were injured when the grounds were cleared. Some had bruises on their arms and on their necks. They said that they requested water and didn't get any. At 5 a.m., they were very hungry. They asked for breakfast. There was no breakfast. They waited almost 5 or 6 hours. It was almost 11 to 12 before they received food and water. It was not what some members said. Some members seriously distorted the facts. They made it appear as if the demonstrators wanted to have lavish meals. Now, it's according to the police guidelines that the persons arrested should have the right to get water and free refreshments. They should have the right to contact their family. They have the right to see their lawyers as quickly as possible. They should be able to communicate with their family members by phone and email, but you took away their phones and you have only one phone line. 511 people were there. They came out and we are very concerned. Now, is it that you are deficient in your manpower at Wong Chuk Han, that you were unable to entertain the request for water? It's a basic right, like food. When did you supply the food and water? How long was it since they requested the food and water? Your time is up. I ask that they provide a written reply on the manpower and facilities at Wong Chuk Han, whether they can reasonably meet the guidelines, and when did they request for water and when it was supplied. Now, there were many questions on that, and the Undersecretary has replied. Now, I can ask for the information, but you have exceeded your time limit. Today's arrangement was at the request of 9 members. Now, I believe this arrangement allows members to express their views on the police handling of the demonstrators on July 2nd, and some members have expressed different views, but clearly some members have raised severe criticisms against the police, and others have praised the police for their professional conduct. Now, this panel is to let the public understand about the how the police have handled the whole incident.
And I think it is time we end our discussion of this item. Item 7, AOB. We don't have any AOB, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.